Hey everybody, it's Brian Entin. Thanks for joining the Spaces. We just finished up our special on News Nation on the Idaho murders. Hopefully, you guys were able to catch it. I know there was a football game and some other stuff going on, but hopefully everybody was able to watch. We're just actually the crew's now packing everything up. It's raining here in Moscow. Paige is with me. She produced the special. You guys all know producer Paige. Paige, are you there?
Hey, I'm here.
I also have Lauren here with me, my field producer who's been with me in Idaho since the beginning. Say hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Everyone sounds so tired now. We've been putting a lot of work into the special, so I think everybody's a little bit exhausted. We're trying to get, if you guys watched the special, Bobby Chacon, the former FBI agent who was on the show. We're trying to. He was supposed to join us. I'm having a little trouble getting in touch with him, but hopefully we'll get him on here in a minute to answer some questions. But how are you doing, Paige?
Hey, I'm doing well. It was really, really powerful and interesting to hear from Kaylee's sister after all this time.
Yeah, I mean, she hadn't spoken out since the arrest. She did some interviews early on, after the murders, but she hadn't been speaking out much. And so I was happy that she was able to do it tonight. I think the most impactful thing that she said, at least for me, was I never thought about this, but when the family goes back through the probable cause affidavit and looks at all of the times, because there's all these specific timestamps and dates when they were tracking Brian Koberger's cell phone, they're going back and comparing it with things happening in Kaylee's life. Like Olivia was saying, there were certain times where she remembered being on the phone with Kaylee at the time that Brian's phone, according to police, was pinging near the house, which I just thought, I'd never really thought about it that way. Like if you're a family member, that's something that you would be piecing together.
Right. And she also was quick to ask people to kind of tamper down the speculation about the surviving roommate too.
Yeah, no, totally. And just the fact that I'm glad we were able to talk to her about the foundation, because that's something really important to the family. They're still in the early stages of doing that. But I know that's going to be really, really important to them once they get that going. And ever since the beginning, you can just tell this is the kind of family that's really, going to want to try to turn this into some form of good to remember their daughter and sister. So we'll have more to come on that soon. And also, if you look on my Twitter, the Canodals have a scholarship fund, which we had up at the end of the show. And then Ethan's parents also have the Sigma Chi has a scholarship fund for Ethan. And then I think Maddie's family is going to go in with Kaylee on the foundation. So I think that'll be something that people who have been really into the case can actually hopefully contribute to. Are you there, Paige?
I'm still here. Yeah.
Lauren, what stuck out to you
in the affidavit?
Or just in the special?
In the special. I loved Olivia's interview. Like I said, that was the first time that we've, heard from her since the arrest, and just hearing her take on just on how the family is doing. And I mean, it just blows my mind too that she's got so much going on just in her personal life, and she's still managing to get these tips over to law enforcement, and she's doing her own digging. That's just very impressive.
Yeah. And I noticed in here, Carrie Rawson is in here, and I hope she doesn't mind me putting her on the spot, but I've been talking to her a lot. If you've been following my story, she is BTK, the serial killer's daughter, she's an amazing person and has overcome that. And if you don't mind, Carrie, I'm going to send you and feel free to just ignore it if you're not up for it right now, but I'll send you an invite right now if you want to talk, just because I know you have such an interesting perspective, just being, you can speak to what the Kobergers are probably going through in terms of, their family and his family and extended family also probably wasn't prepared for this moment. So I sent you an invite, Carrie. If you want to, feel free to chime in. But again, no pressure at all. Like this was totally unplanned. So don't feel like you have to do it, but I did send it to your DMs. So I think it was interesting going through the whole timeline again. you know, it's a lot to, you know, we usually have like 3-minute hits or so. So it's a lot to, you know, sort of interpret. So we had the time tonight to really.
You know what? Another thing that that struck me too, that it really, you know, brought it back home, you know, how these families have been impacted, because obviously we are focusing on the victims here, was when Olivia was talking about, she literally went through that timeline, with the cell phone pings, just to, you know, going back through and saying, oh, I remember what I was talking to. Oh, this might be our
yeah, hold on a second.
Yeah, and I think, Brian, you and I talked about this yesterday when we did our spaces, but you feel like you hear these little bits and pieces of information every day, every other day. So it's kind of interesting to sort of see everything laid out at once, especially compared to, it was 5 weeks ago when we did our first special on the case, when we really knew, honestly, like 5% of what we know now.
Yeah, Carrie, are you there? I can't tell if you're.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to put you
Hi,
on the
Carrie.
spot. I hope you don't mind. You didn't have to.
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm always on Twitter. I live on Twitter. So.
Okay, yeah, that's how we.
Nice to meet you, Carrie.
Nice to meet you, Paige.
That's how we found each other. So Carrie, I you know, I won't take you too much of your time, but, and you and I have talked a lot with everything you've gone through with your dad. But if you don't mind talking a little bit to what, you know, the Kohberger, I mean, you know, when you're the family of someone like that, and again, he's just accused at this point, so I want to make that clear. You know, it's innocent until proven guilty, but maybe you can give a little perspective of what the family, that side of things might be like.
Well, I think Kaylee's sister really hit upon an important point that, you know, the general public isn't really thinking about it as putting that timeline together. So the victims' families will be doing that, like putting those little pieces together. Unfortunately, it's something their families are going to be doing for a very long time, and, you know, struggling with those what ifs, you know, on both sides. And then Kohberger's family also, stuff is going to come out in tiny little pieces, and they're going to have to put timelines together and ask themselves those questions, those what if questions. And I just also want to say, having gone through this, unfortunately, these families are in for a really long haul, especially if he takes his right to go to trial. You're talking about a very long event here that basically just kind of overwhelms these families, and it basically becomes your life, unfortunately. So I just want to speak from that perspective of just knowing that it's going to be a very long event for everyone. It's just extremely difficult.
Do you think, I mean, based on your own experience, and again, I just want to keep saying it, I don't want to convict him, you know, at this point, Kohberger, but is there denial in the beginning? Like, what was the process like for you?
For my family, I mean, I kind of hearken it like to the grief stages you hear about. You know, in the past, I've shared this upside down U of grief, but then I've said it's sort of like a pinball spinning around in there still, of like all the stages of grief you hear about. We definitely went through shock, denial, trying to alibi early. The first night I was trying to alibi my dad, I was on the internet, shouldn't have been doing that. You're also grieving because you've lost a family member. And it takes a while to get through, you know, to what we would call acceptance. And it comes in steps. Like, there's little things you can't handle all of it at once. So you just start accepting certain things. Even this many years out, there's still things I still have to come to terms and accept, unfortunately.
And Carrie, since some time has passed, what's that like? You know, every time this feels like it gets revisited, or you just want to close the chapter, but, you know, in a sense you can't.
Well, in my case, day to day, normally I'm doing like normal life. But then things come up. So like when I find out something new about my own father's case and his crimes, or something triggers, you know, my own PTSD, then I have to go deal with things, or like found out something new this weekend, so I just had to go deal with that, while still being a mom and, doing everything else. So it's, um, I don't know, I guess in one way you just get used to it and this becomes your life and you sort of figure out how to do it. There are days you just want to be like, I'm done. Where's my blanket and where's my bed? To be honest. So I don't know, you do what you have to do, and then when you can't do it, you go take a nap.
Well, you're really, I mean, I feel like meeting you was really a blessing, Carrie, for me, just hearing your story. And I think I tweeted the other day, like ever since I interviewed you, I've thought about that interview every day. So thanks again. Sorry for putting you on the spot. Thank you.
All good. I'm always here. All good. So
okay.
Wonderful to hear from you.
Yeah, good to talk to you guys.
I do have Bobby Chacon on the phone now, and I'm just Lauren put him on speaker because we don't, after our experience last night, Paige, with Spaces and Stuart.
We're trying not to put people through that again.
Yeah, but I know. So this is Bobby Chacon. Hey, Bobby, you're here, right?
Yes, I am, Brian.
Okay, so we have you on Spaces, so we have quite a few people listening in, and thank you for doing the special, Bobby. But we wanted to get, so like last night we got a ton of questions, and we didn't have time to get to them all in the special. I don't know, Paige, you had kind of a list, and you have some like the viewer questions.
Yeah, I had a lot of people who over the last 24 hours have been sending me a lot of questions. So Bobby, we're excited to have you with us. One of the first questions, and Brian, you might be able to weigh in on this too. Someone sent me, we got the video and you sent it back to us and you reported on it late this week on Friday about the mattresses taken from the house and the furniture. Do you know who was taking that?
Lauren was actually the one out there. I was at the jail. Lauren shot that video. To me, it looked like a police detective that I recognized.
Yeah, there were a couple of detectives out there that looked like Moscow police that we had seen before. Everybody there was dressed in plain clothes except for one person that was in like an actual uniform.
Do you know, Bobby, why they would be taking the mattresses out at this stage of things?
No, not at this stage. I mean, I would assume that they would have taken them out by now. Mattresses, particularly, as in this case where people might, and I only say might because I don't know for sure, might have been killed in their beds, obviously would be the recipient of a lot of evidence because the killer would have had to climb on that bed or at least been on that bed at some point. We know that the sheath was found with the DNA on the button, on the snap, was found on one of the beds. So the bed can... you can harvest a lot of good evidence from the bed. And so I have in my cases, and I've seen it in other cases, where the whole bed is actually taken upon the initial crime scene. Once you do your kind of sketches and once you do your video inside, once everything like that is done and you can start removing big pieces, the mattress in this type of case would be one of the, what I would think, one of the earliest things taken.
But it was just taken, what was it, yesterday, Lauren? Or the day before?
No, it was on Friday.
What I mean, they were just now taking them out. Is that unusual, do you think, Bobby?
I mean, it would be unusual, but I mean, look, if the scene was secure and nobody could come or go from it, as long as the scene was secure, it's fine. You have chain of custody and all that kind of stuff. It also could have been a different mattress. It might not have been. We might not have seen the first mattresses taken out early on in the crime scene. So it could have been a different mattress that they took out for whatever reason now. Or it could have been that the scene was secure. They had it locked down until, it's only when you start letting other people into the crime scene and you don't have security on the crime scene. So in other words, the crime scene has a log. Everybody that enters or leaves the crime scene is logged in when they went in, when they came out, what they did while they were inside. And so as long as you maintain that kind of integrity in your crime scene, it's okay to leave it this long. It's just, in my experience, it's not usual.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. What anything else, Paige? Any other good ones that we should ask?
Yeah, I got a good question about the Elantra. The car in the surveillance video, it coordinates with the phone pings, but this person sent me this question saying, like, is it enough to prove it was his car? And do you think, Bobby, defense team or even prosecution will be trying to kind of recreate the footage and recreate the routes?
I'll take the second one first. Yes, I think they will do a good job, and I think they will try to recreate the routes they will match up the video with the cell pings and anything else they might have, any still photos from different things and doorbells or whatever of cars passing. I think they will do a very detailed movement analysis using data points from several different things, like videos, like still photos, like traffic cams, and like his cell phone. And I think they will overlay all of that together. And, it won't be one particular thing that wins the day, but all of these things taken together, I think will really shed light on a really detailed, specific movement.
I have a quick one that a few people have asked me today. When you go back to the beginning and they said over and over again that this was a targeted attack, but we still don't know a motive right now. Right. I mean, was it really a targeted attack, or do you think we still can we say that for sure at this point?
Well, I mean, it depends on what people are using, what the definition they're using as targeted, right? So do I think he randomly went into that house that night? No. Do I think he did some pre-attack surveillance? Yes. And I think the cell phone pings bear some of that out. I wouldn't be surprised if we have more analysis of that showing that, he might have been, of course, the same coffee shop at the same time, because now you have to overlay his pinging cell phones with the victim's pinging cell phones and then see how often they were in the same general area at the same time over the last weeks and months. So I think it depends on what you call targeted. I think certainly targeted from the standpoint that he did pre-surveillance on that house and on at least one, or if not more, of those victims, both in person and on the internet. And so I think that in that sense, it was targeted. So it all depends on the level of targeting and what you deem, as the definition of the word target that you're using. Yeah. It's not really a legal definition, so we don't get too hung up on it.
Interesting. Bobby, we had an interesting conversation about this yesterday, but can you kind of give some insight into the strategy behind what you would put in an arrest affidavit and what you would leave out?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a decision made by both the investigators and the prosecutors, mainly the prosecutors, obviously, because, it's their case once it gets into court. But there's always a standard second or third paragraph in there that says, this is not all I know about the case. And hearsay is allowed in these affidavits. So, it's information just to the level of probable. Now, some prosecutors like to put a little more than that, some less. It also depends on the local prosecutors are very familiar with the local magistrate judges who read the affidavits and pass judgment on whether or not they should get the arrest warrant. So, if they know this particular judge wants a little bit more, and another magistrate wants a little less, they will fashion it to the particular magistrate judge that they're dealing with sometimes. And so what you do is you make the judgment on how much you want to put in the affidavit to reach the probable cause threshold. And you don't want to put in there stuff that's going to be contested too much later on. Now, that being said, there is no gotcha moment. The defense will have all of this in due time. It's not like they'll spring it on them with trial. It'll be a big secret until then. The defense will have plenty of time. They will see all the evidence that the prosecution has. They will have the ability to have that evidence tested by their own experts. And so what you put in an affidavit, what you hide out of there, it could relate to other witnesses that you want to keep secret for now. It could relate to other evidence that you want to keep secret now for a variety of reasons. It could relate, in some cases, not particularly this one, it could relate to accessories after the fact that you don't want, hitting the road until you, get a case against them or people that may have helped with the crime. And so there's a number of different reasons why you hold back information in a warrant. It's certainly obviously not all that they have. They have a much higher burden at trial than they had in securing the arrest warrant. But they do so, they obtain that arrest warrant knowing, speedy trial rules. They may have to go to trial fast. They probably won't. He probably will waive speedy trial, but they have to go on the assumption of, we have to have enough to prove beyond a reasonable doubt before we even go and arrest somebody, because that's going to be the burden we have. And we may have to get there quicker than we want to, because the defendant always has a right to a speedy trial.
Someone on Twitter just sent in a question for you, Bobby. Please discuss the difference between cell tower pings and actual GPS coordinates.
Well, I mean, that's a very good question because, and there is a huge difference, right? So GPS coordinates are, an exact location. I can put you with it depending on the GPS. So certain GPS works on satellites. So a GPS that can hit 12 satellites will be a certain level of accuracy. One that's using 24 satellites will be double the accuracy, basically. And so a cell tower, when your cell phone hits off a tower, you can draw a circle around that tower, and in that circle is probably where the cell phone was when it pinged off that tower. Now, as you move away from that tower, you'll get closer to another tower, and then you'll start to ping off that because all the cells have to reach out to a tower. And so it's not like GPS. It's not an exact coordinates. So most GPS will put you out of space within a meter, 3 feet, maybe it's 3 feet or more. But a cell tower ping is a much bigger area, and it's much less exact. GPS is much more exact.
Makes sense. Anything else, Paige, that people are asking you?
I think we hit the main ones.
Yeah, I'm just going through my
A couple people asking just logistically if they can catch the special again. A lot of people too out of the US, which News Nation currently doesn't reach at this moment. So if you're interested in watching the rerun of the special, midnight Eastern time, 11 Central, I think that would put it at a 9 Pacific Standard Time by that measure. And the whole thing will, as all of our specials typically are, available on our News Nation YouTube channel. So we encourage you to check that out, as well as just kind of checking out News Nation in general. We're small, we're growing by the day. We've got a really special team here doing a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, that's what I said to Mo and Lauren out here. I'm like, we're small but mighty because we're just a little team out here,
Yes, we are.
But yeah, thank you, Bobby, for calling. We appreciate it, and thanks for being on the special tonight.
Thank you, Bobby. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, we'll talk to you later, Bobby. Thank you.
Thanks.
So yeah, I think we're probably pretty good here. I know everybody's a little tired. But yeah, that's news to me. I didn't even know the special was rerunning, Paige. So now
if you're a late night person on that East Coast, midnight, the countdown's on.
The countdown is on. Mo's almost unpacking up out here, so we will probably grab some food, and I won't bother you with a million calls tonight, Paige, now that the special is over.
What a treat.
And thank you everybody for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll be in Idaho. We're not leaving. We've got the hearing obviously on Thursday, and some other stories we're working on. Thank you everybody for sending me DMs and tips. And there's a lot that we don't talk about in terms of like, obviously, like I said in the special, we're not going to put anything out there until it's confirmed in fact, but I still appreciate everybody sending me things. We look at all of it and try to confirm it. It's difficult right now with the gag order, obviously, because we don't really have a line of communication with the police right now, at least officially. So
I will say we have some really good stuff still in the works on everything that's going on out here.
Yeah, in the next couple of days, sure.
Yes, for sure. So everybody tune in.
Yeah, and I was glad we got in the special at the end, just like kind of the shout out to Moscow, because it really is such a nice town. I mean,
it really is.
It is. Like, the people are so nice. It's a beautiful downtown. They've never dealt with anything like this. They've been so nice to us. I mean, we've been here. A lot of times people get so sick of the media, but they've really been just really great.
Very kind, and I mean, even law enforcement out here, we've been set up, outside of the jail, and just very courteous and kind, know, and I'm sure they're all kind of tired of us.
Yeah. And obviously our hearts are with the victims' families. So thank you for all your hard work, Paige.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do this with you guys. And thanks to everybody watching, interacting with us. We really appreciate it. This is always, from the start, felt really important to Brian and I, Lauren as well, the story and the families and everything that comes with it, and the quest for justice. So we appreciate you guys being along for the ride.
All right. So everybody have a good night, and we'll be back on News Nation tomorrow with any updates. And thank you guys for joining the spaces. Thank you, Carrie, for speaking. I know that was kind of out of the blue, but we appreciate your perspective.
Thank you, Carrie.
And everybody have a good night. All right. Bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up. I am going to rest and get better for work tomorrow. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow. Thank you for coming in. Love y'all.